If you've been struggling trying to increase your dopamine levels and looking for a more natural way of doing it than through medication, then I'm going to be talking about the 5 strongest supplements that you can use that I know. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. LeGrand. I have ADHD and dyslexia, and I've been able to successfully manage my own ADHD without using medication. And now I help adults all over the world with their focus, motivation, drive issues, their memory issues, as well as any kind of ADHD symptoms that they're experiencing. So the very first supplement that I think is really powerful and strong is, how is dopamine made? Well, one of the biggest ways that dopamine is made, a lot of people think it just all happens in the brain, but there's other parts of the body that does help with the dopamine process. And one is dealing with the gut. In fact, about 90 to 95% of a lot of our neurotransmitters, not just dopamine, are made in the gut. And about 50% or more of dopamine is made in the gut. And so one of the biggest things that we have seen in research that does play a huge role in depleting our production of dopamine is our gut flora, meaning that when there is bad gut flora and if we get infections and dealing with any kind of like bacteria overgrowth that isn't good for the gut, then that definitely has been shown to deplete our dopamine. But on the opposite side, we have also seen that when you do replenish the gut flora and actually have good bacteria replenishing constantly, it does increase dopamine levels. So one of the most effective ways that you could do this is, of course, using a supplement like probiotics. And so probiotics have been proven to increase dopamine levels because it is helping with the gut flora and balancing the gut. And so one of the biggest things that I also do tell my patients and clients is, if you have taken any kind of antibiotics, this destroys all, not only the bad bacteria, but also the good. So when that happens, if you've taken the last 2 years, you want to replenish that with probiotics and prebiotics, because that will help a lot significantly increasing dopamine levels, especially if you do suffer with that. The second strongest supplement that I know that can be really powerful when it comes to increasing dopamine levels has a lot to do with also is how it's directly made. And that is L-dopa. L-dopa is, or also known as levodopa, does help build dopamine. And a great plant that has L-dopa in it is Mucuna pruriens. And it's something that I use a lot with my patients and clients, especially when I know they're suffering with low dopamine levels. They want to do something more natural. That is one of the most powerful ones you can specifically be using. Now, along those same lines, we have to understand that there is multiple things that contribute to helping improving dopamine. It isn't just one thing, but multiple things that can contribute to this. And another really powerful amino acid that you can be using is something like L-theanine. L-theanine is very powerful in not only helping improving dopamine, but also does help with GABA, as well as serotonin and norepinephrine. Those things are very vital for helping us to be more motivated, focused, and driven. And so it might not be a dopamine situation on your hands, but it could be a situation with your serotonin levels. It could be an issue with your GABA levels. It could be a number of different things. And so that's why I love L-theanine, because it contributes to a lot of different neurotransmitter pathways, not just dopamine, that can solve the focus and motivation and drive situation that you're dealing with. And that being said, it takes a lot more than just supplementation to understand what truly is going on with your low dopamine situation and your symptoms that you're experiencing having low dopamine, whether that's dealing with motivation, focus, and drive. And so you should download my all-day focus and energy guide in the description below that talks all about the different supplementation, but also the labs that you should be doing to investigate really what's truly going on, as well as foods to implement and foods to avoid. So definitely go ahead and download that free guide in the description below. Now, a very common supplement that a lot of people like to use to help improve dopamine is tyrosine, or L-tyrosine. Now, I think it can be effective, but the problem that I usually run into is I don't usually always see people deficient in tyrosine levels all the time. And that's because it is a non-essential amino acid. Now, a non-essential amino acid means that our body can make it. We don't have to get it from a food source. Our body actually will naturally make it. So what I do find that is even more beneficial is what does make tyrosine. Well, it is phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is an amino acid that is a more essential amino acid that I do find that people tend to be deficient in, especially my patients that have ADHD or focus and motivation issues. I will see that more of an issue than it being a tyrosine situation. So taking something like DL-phenylalanine, which is a more absorbable source of phenylalanine. So you want to take that, and that will definitely help improve with your situation of your dopamine. because phenylalanine helps build tyrosine. Tyrosine then helps make L-dopa, and then L-dopa helps make dopamine. Now, along those same lines is another thing that I do tend to see creep up as an issue is an excitatory neurotransmitter known as phenylalanine. Now, phenylalanine is definitely important. It's at the very beginning of the whole dopamine process. And it's something when I test that, I will see that probably more deficient as an issue than actually dopamine itself. And when that is deficient, it will have symptoms just like you experience with low dopamine, which is lack of focus, motivation, drive, depression, you name it. And when you address that specifically, you can supplement phenylalanine directly, and it can improve the whole dopamine process. But also phenylalanine, like I was saying before, can also help with phenylalanine levels as well. So I tend to like to supplement those both because they just do so well with the whole dopamine process. Now, like I was saying before, as great as supplements are, it is only really initial stepping stone that gets things going, but it isn't going to help you with the long-term struggle that you're having with having low dopamine levels, or more so the symptoms you've been experiencing of lack of motivation, focus, and drive. Maybe you have ADHD and you're suffering with that. So you should watch this video next where I dive in deep on my 3-step process of how to eliminate of all those ADHD symptoms that you're experiencing. So watch this video next.